This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Now, 5 Live Breakfast. Your call with Nikki Campbell. Call 0500 909 693. Calls are free from most landlines, but some networks and mobile operators will charge. Text 85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rate.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Good morning. It's your call. Right, the government's new system of benefits payments kicks in today, the universal credit system. People will get a once-a-month lump sum instead of 6 separate payments, such as income support, child tax credit, housing benefit, and so forth. It's on a pilot scheme today in the Manchester area. It's expected that it'll be everywhere by about 2017. The people will have to manage the money themselves. They pay their own bills, make sure they spread the money across the month. They'll have to work a computer to claim the credits in the first place, so have to be computer literate. It's expected if you don't have one, go to the library and do it there. And after the travel at 9:15, we'll have an expert on hand. He's with me in the studio right now, Phil Agulnik. Good morning.
Hi, Nikki.
I'll just put your microphone up there. How are you?
I'm very well today.
And listen, let me tell you, everyone, he's got his laptop, so he can answer any question you like about this. And we'll ask Phil how it's going to work, what's changed. But first of all, let's look at how it's implemented and the arguments around it with Andrew Harrop, who joins us from the Fabian Society. Good morning.
Morning, Nikki.
And Matthew Oakley from the Policy Exchange, conservative think tank, whose mission is to develop and promote new policy ideas. Matthew Oakley, good morning.
Good morning.
Andrew Harrop, broadly speaking, well, Andrew, when we'll be speaking to Labour people about this, they say that, the principle is sound. Do you agree with that?
Everyone can agree that we should have a benefit system that encourages people to get back into work and is simpler for claimants to understand. So the principle is good, but there are some significant practical concerns. You just mentioned concerns about the IT systems and, will it work, which is obviously very important for people worrying if the money's going to turn up in their bank account. And also a lot of people who aren't used to using the internet to make claims will be having to do that for the first time. But I think the biggest concern is moving to making a single monthly payment, which may be right for many people, but there are also a lot of people on benefits who are quite vulnerable, may lead quite chaotic lives, and will really struggle to manage a single monthly budget. The risk is that they end up getting into worse and worse debt. Debt is already a massive problem in the UK, and this could make it worse.
What's your response to that, Matthew Oakley?
Well, I completely agree that obviously, I think we can all agree that this is the right thing to be doing, that the benefit system got into a situation where it was hugely complex, loads of different benefits overlapping with each other, and meaning that it was actually not worthwhile for people to move into work or to earn more money because their benefits were taken away and they weren't any better off. Clearly, there are some concerns around the IT, but, these things should be kind of ironed out during the piloting, which is exactly why it's right that the government has taken the decision to roll this out slowly, not rush into things like we've done in the past with the system of tax credits where we introduced it in one big go, and that was, frankly, a disaster, and so it's right that we're piloting. The other stuff around, the single monthly payment, yes, there are concerns, but, recent research has shown that actually people on benefits, people on low incomes are actually very good at managing their finances. And I think, frankly, it's a little bit patronising to say to people that they can't manage. I think with the right support, we
had a guest on this morning, Luke, earlier on. He said, I will not be able to manage.
Well, I think that the point is here that with help and with support, the people should be able to manage. And, I think the government's also right to be saying that, look, for many people, the reality of working is that you get a monthly payment. And, it would be very hard to move from a benefit system which is paid fortnightly or weekly into work where it's paid monthly. And so it's right to try and help people prepare for a move into work or prepare to move into more hours and better work by actually trying to make them self-sufficient in terms of managing the finances.
Well, let's hear from callers. Thank you, Andrew and Matthew. Good to know that you're there. Excellent that you're on this morning. Martin is in Ipswich. It's important we hear from people. Martin, what would you like to say? And also we've got our expert to answer any questions just a little bit later on. He's here now and he's listening, but we'll concentrate on Phil after the travel news a little bit later. Morning, Martin. What's your point?
Hello. I would like to possibly mention the digital by default. This it's a government mantra, let's put everybody on, get everybody to to apply for this universal credit online. Now, there's a problem. There's a few problems I see. I come from a particular standpoint of disabled people. I'm disabled myself. I am blind. I have a screen reader on my computer in front of me. Now, I use my disability living allowance to pay for that. I am lucky to have a computer. Okay, I use it for much more than just getting online. I use it for reading posts and things like that. But I have an internet connection. There are many people who do not. And many people who cannot use computers have never touched one. I think one survey I saw, the last survey I saw, 4.5 million disabled people had never actually touched a computer. Mm-hmm. Now, if, for example, universal credit comes in and people with disabilities, people with literacy problems, dyslexia, people with who are blind, if they have not got a computer and they have to go, say, down to the library. Now, will the library have the access technology and the people that know how to use that access technology and people in the job centres that know how to use the computers? Because these people will have to be sat down with and have the computer literally driven for them because they will not know how to work the system. Now,
well, let me bring Phil in right at this point, who's here. Can you enlighten us on this?
Okay, I think the way it's meant to work is that the online claim is for the majority, and in a lot of what's going on in this policy is the government are pushing the way, they're pushing the way that they want people to do it. They want people to claim online. They want people to have the housing costs in the single payment. There are get-out clauses. Not everyone has to do it online, and not absolutely everyone is going to have housing costs included.
Disabled people is quite a lot.
No, I agree. So, but if you like, what I'm saying is the government are putting out the message, we want everyone to do it online. We want everyone to have housing costs included. Actually, there are get-out clauses in terms of both doing it online and having all your housing costs
Okay, listen to Phil in Kent. Hello, Phil.
Hello.
All yours.
Well, I think there's a lot of things wrong with it because I think the government are hoping that they're going to save money because there'll be a lot more unclaimed benefits because people won't be able to claim on computers, etc. Because if I go up to the library, I'll get a maximum of 1 hour to do whatever I want on the computer, and it may take more than that to fill in these forms because I probably won't be able to understand them fully.
Yeah. Nicky, could I just come in on something a minute?
Who's that?
It's Martin.
Go on, Martin, yeah.
Yeah, basically, I'm worried about that myself because basically you're given an hour's worth. You've got your security is another issue. Going into the library and entering in all your personal information into a computer, not knowing who's looking over your shoulder. I mean, this is going to be the most personal information that's usually done in private in forms. Yeah, on a form in a piece of paper.
Matthew Oakley, how do you respond to these real concerns from the likes of Martin and Phil?
Obviously, I agree that these are serious concerns, and as I say, it's exactly the reason why it's right for the government to be rolling this out slowly, to be piloting. And I think one of the good things about universal credit, and responding to the point around take-up, is that actually, once you get over that hurdle of actually applying for it, getting your eligibility sorted out, you are going to be actually then, it's a streamlined process, so you don't have to do that process for housing benefit, for job seekers allowance, for the different benefits. It's all wrapped into one process, so it's actually just one claim, which actually means that take-up should actually increase once universal credit's been rolled out. Now, I appreciate that it could be difficult for some groups, and particularly groups with disabilities. Martin was talking about blind people, and it always has a huge barrier. But I think with the right support, and as I understand it, there is going to be support available to help people through this process, both from job centres, hopefully from the third sector and the private sector in local areas, which is going to be funded by government. Hopefully that will actually help people to take that step and actually manage the process a lot more easily and a lot more straightforward way than they do now.
Well, let's get Nick in Anfield on as well. Hello, Nick.
Hi. Hi there.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Oh, well, okay. Yes.
What's your point?
Right, my point, I'm more worried about the benefit caps that they're actually adding to this. It's because it's causing a lot of problems already. I mean, because I work with people on DSS and stuff like that. I can see already that they're struggling, that they're already worrying. They've got to move out of for example, there's families that are a family of 7 or 8 and they need a 4-bedroom house. But now with these caps, they've got to try and squeeze into a 2-bed or a 3-bed to try and afford to live. And that's going to cause a lot of problems with living conditions, etc. And that's what's really, bothering me. Why have they actually tried to also cut on their rent? And the other point that I have is that I've got a lot of people that I work with have actually tried to go to work, and the difference that they have to contribute to their rent is massive. In other words, they're only like 20 or 30 pounds better off per week since they've started going to work, and they're just feeling, what is the point? I've been pushed to go to work, and yet my housing benefit's been affected so greatly that I'm still left with just 20 or 30 pounds more per week rather than what I was left with before.
So is this really a sufficient incentive? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it's just. I just think it's absolutely not right.
Yeah, go on. Who is it?
Nicky, could I come in on that?
It's Phil in Kent.
Go on, Phil, first, yeah.
I've been out of work for quite a while. I'd quite happily go back to work and be £30 a week better off than what I am on the dole, because purely and simply it'd give me a better feeling in life. I'm not being patronising to those who do struggle, but I'd sooner sort of like have a job and feel that I'm worth something rather than and have £30 a week more money in my pocket than sort of claim the money, basically.
Andrew, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, and obviously in many parts of the country there aren't many jobs available, which is the biggest barrier to work. But with the design of universal credit, it's a bit of an incentive, but as the previous caller said, it's still not a brilliant reward. For every pound you earn in your take-home pay, you only receive 35 pence of it if you're, moving into work through universal credit. And it gets even worse for the second earner in a family, which is typically a mum.
Is that not better, though, than the previous situation?
But particularly if you're a mum with childcare costs.
There are winners and losers, yeah.
Actually being virtually not better off under the universal credit as it's been designed.
And what about the aspect of council tax benefit being devolved?
Well, that means that you have loads of different systems working side by side on top of universal credit. So it's very confusing for people and the authorities administering it. It also means that in some areas, if you also have the impact of the bedroom tax, people have just lost up to £20 a week as we think about this big new system coming in. So it's quite an insecure time for a lot of people who are on very low incomes.
Quick comment from Matthew Oakley, then we'll take the travel news and have our expert full on with you. Any questions about these changes, he'll be able to answer them, hopefully, touching wood. Matthew, quick comment.
I guess my point would be that, any kind of benefit simplification, anything which is trying to make work pay, trying to rationalise a system which has, basically got out of hand in terms of, previous governments, adding to complexity, adding benefit on top of benefit, any kind of simplification of that is going to mean that some people have less money than they previously did, and that we might have some people struggling in the short term. But it has to be the right way to go to make sure that work pays, to make sure that families are supported into work and that can actually move to supporting themselves and their families, rather than, as your claimant said, people don't want to be on benefits out of work, they want to be in work earning money.
All right.
That's what the system's about.
OK, we've got the director of the online benefits calculator, entitledto.com, Phil Agulnik, with us. He's going to answer your questions in just a second. Anything you want to know, anything you want clarified, cleared up, explained. He's the man. 9:19. Here's Michelle.
Well, starting in Essex with the southbound M11 between Junction 5 at Loughton and Junction 4 at Woodford. 2 lanes remain closed to recover an accident. Congestion goes back to Junction 6 for the M25, looking at delays of about 90 minutes if you're heading on that stretch. Elsewhere, the northbound M6 between Junction 4A for the M42 and Junction 5 at Castle Bromwich. There's a car broken down, blocking 1 lane and causing heavy traffic. Still busy on the M4 Britain Ferry Bridge westbound between Junctions 41 and 42. Congestion goes back to Junction 40. It's an accident which is blocking 1 lane there. Southbound on the M40 between Junction 2 at Beaconsfield and Junction 1A for the M25. An accident and an oil spillage means 1 lane remains closed. That's causing queuing traffic. The westbound M26 was blocked for a short time until 9:05. That was from Junction 2A for the A20 and the M25. It was because of an accident involving 2 lorries. 1 lane remains closed on that stretch, causing queues. And just so you know, in Kings Lynn, the A47 now partially blocked in both directions after Kings Lynn, and in Hemel Hempstead the A414 eastbound remains closed after the M1 Junction 7. Michelle Dignan, 5 Live Travel.
Today on 5 Live.
At 10, Victoria Derbyshire debates the day's big stories. From 12, Sheila Fogarty reviews the weekend's sport with her sports team, including Kelly Southerton, Ian Dowie, Paul Davis and Tina Cook. At 2, Richard Bacon's guests include Dr. Richard Miles and Kyle Eastwood. And at 4, 5 Live Drive investigates new criticism that the English Premier League is putting profits before fans.
Today on 5 Live. This is 5 Live Breakfast. Your call.
Good morning, it's your call. It's 9:21. Let's take a quick call from Gino in London. Hello, Gino. What would you like to say?
Morning, Nikki. Just wanted to say that the government are giving all this rent money to these tenants, and a lot of these tenants aren't passing the money on to the landlords. And in fact, my sister's going through this trauma at the moment. She hasn't had any rent since October of last year. She wrote to the council saying, "Why aren't I being paid?" And the councillor turned around and said, "Oh, we've now changed the policy. We're now giving it direct to the tenant, and the tenant should be paying," and the tenant hasn't. Then we wrote to the tenant, or my sister wrote to the tenant on numerous occasions, and changing of phone numbers here, and you can't harass them, you can't knock on their door because it's a form of harassment. And now they've got to take legal proceedings, and these legal proceedings take 6 to 8 weeks to get anything before the courts. And then once they're before the courts, they don't even turn up. Then the bailiffs are put in place, and then that takes another 6 to 8 weeks, maybe a bit longer, and we still don't get any money, and the whole thing is a joke. And you're going to find that myself, I'm a private landlord, I won't be taking any council tenants on anymore, and I'm sure half the people in England, if they've got a brain, won't take any council tenants on, because it's like giving a loaded gun to a child. I mean, you give them all this money, and they just go weak at the knees, and they don't pass the money on to the landlord.
Phil, is this an unintended consequence? Is this a real problem?
The potential for it to happen is definitely there. The landlords...
People will not want to lease to people on benefits.
Well, that's actually under the existing system. What's happening under Universal Credit is housing association and council tenants are getting their housing costs paid directly to them. This existing system for private tenants has been in for about 5 years. I mean, I would urge Gino to talk again to the council, because they can, in certain circumstances, pay it direct to the landlord.
Thank you very much. Here's Brian in the Wirral. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Nicky.
What's your question?
Yeah, it's just the monthly payments.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not going to be in advance. It's going to be have to wait 4 weeks to get your first payment. How do people pay the rent if they're weekly? How did they heat the homes? And how did they get the food if they've got no money for 4 weeks?
It will have a phased transition coming in, so they'll move between the weekly and the monthly in steps. But yes, it is going to be complicated, and yes, it is going to be difficult in terms of budgeting. I completely agree.
Yeah, but how did they feed themselves when it is introduced from weekly to monthly? How did they go on for the first 4 weeks without any money to pay the rent if they pay weekly rent and pay the gas and electric and get food? How did they survive?
It won't happen overnight, okay? There'll be a transition. You will end up being monthly when you're on Universal Credit. You'll start weekly, but to get from one to the other will take a number of months. They're not going to do it in one fell swoop.
I appreciate that they're not going to do it in one go, but it eventually will happen.
Yeah.
How do people manage for 4 weeks with no money? That's what I want to know.
Well, the government's idea is that you're getting a monthly amount of money and it's your responsibility to budget. Now, a lot of the conversation today is about people's ability to budget. The government says people need to learn, it's what everyone in work does. Other people say that's not what people are used to and it's unrealistic.
Yeah, people in work, when they leave a job, they leave with money knowing that that's going to last them for 4 weeks. But when you're on benefits, suddenly to go from weekly and ask people to wait for 4 weeks without any money, I tell you what, it's going to cause more trouble, more riots. Please believe me. I don't want to say this, but they're in for a lot of trouble here, and I mean it.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Well, we're hearing from you on this, and let's hear from Trevor in Chelmsford. Hello, Trevor.
Good morning. Yeah, basically what it is I had a stroke last March, March in 2012. Mm-hmm. And I'm struggling to get around and do everything I can. For example, I had to wait 3 days to go shopping. Mm. Now, what I'm being asked to do, I gather, is that I'm going to have to go to the internet in my local library and do this form filling, and I'll find that I haven't got the right paperwork and so on. basically I can barely get to the. Basically, I couldn't get to the phone when you rang me before.
Yeah, when we rang you back, yes. Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's something. And the other option for you, the other option which this would produce, would be I'd be banging in hospital. And hospital costs, they cost more than a home. I don't know. I can't remember the numbers. There were £10,000 admission, and so much for £250 a week or something for that. And I'm trying to avoid all of that. I just want to avoid all of that.
Well, Trevor, you express it very well, and I wonder if Phil
could... There's a major cost factor here.
Yeah.
In terms of they could save money by putting this on me, but it's going to be physically very painful to do it all. Physically, I mean, to be honest, I told you I couldn't get to the phone.
Yeah, Phil, couldn't get to the phone. Did you send a text earlier on to us, yes?
No, I rang you.
You rang, and we rang you back. Okay. And so
that was kind of you to do that, and I apologise if I've wasted your time. But
you haven't wasted our time at all. You haven't wasted our time at all. You
understand what I'm saying? I'm in a situation where I can barely cope with what I've got.
Yeah.
And we've now got another lot bung on top.
Well, Phil might be able to help you. What would you say to Trevor, Phil?
There's two things going on, Trevor. One is just about care home fees, because you mentioned that briefly. The government are actually bringing in a more generous system, not till about 2016 or 2017, where you keep more money. So that's on the care home fee side.
Yeah, in terms of your... excuse me, but that wasn't the issue, actually. I'm not worried about care home fees. That isn't the issue. It's really of me going back into hospital.
Back into hospital, yeah.
And I hate that. Because... I mean, I've sat in the hospital ward and screamed my head off for painkillers for hours on end.
And listen, how's he going to get down to the library to a computer to sort all this out when he can barely get across the room to the phone? That's the thing.
You know what I'm saying. I'm trying to. I want to avoid hospital.
I know exactly what you're saying. I'm sitting in
the hospital. I'm screaming my head off for painkillers.
I understand. Let's see what Phil says about this situation.
Trevor, you're part of this 20% who are not going to be expected to do it online. Now, there's a lot of rhetoric from the government about it's going to be online and everyone's going to be expected to do it online. There are going to be exceptions. The government doesn't want to encourage people to the idea that they don't have to do it online, but people like you are going to be in those exceptional groups where there will be what's called a local service. So we don't know the full details at the moment, but local authorities will have a role in helping people exactly like you, Trevor.
You can understand, if I can't answer the phone, I don't want people bloody visiting me in bloody odd times of the day and so on, do I? You understand that I know change is important.
I quite understand, Trevor.
Will there be help for people like Trevor? Will there be help?
There will be help for people like Trevor, exactly.
Okay, listen, Trevor, I wish you well, and do keep in touch and let us know how it's going. And your call was very valuable. Steve's in Barking. Hello, Steve.
Hello there. I'm in the same, but I don't have a computer. But I've got a bit of luck with this universal credit. It sounds ridiculous. I live in a 2-bedroom council house in East London. Right, and I don't need it. Now, my family live in Hull, and they've got plenty of 1-bedroom flats, and I found one. I've got to go up and look at it. And I found out that if I was to move up to Hull, I don't know if you've got your calculator there, I could be about £35 a week better off.
Really? Well, have you got your calculator, Phil?
I haven't got it open at the moment.
I know in Barking, in Dagenham, where I live, the system's not coming until 2017, and staff have not been trained. But according to, I've rung Hull City Council, they said their system's coming in October this year. Not being funny. Not being funny. So, to me, it's an incentive for me to get rid of my 2-bedroom council house and move into a 1-bedroom.
And that's exactly what the government wants you to do, Steve. I mean, if it's better for you, the government's argument for what they're doing with the bedroom tax or whatever they want to call it is exactly people like you. If you've got a 2-bedroom property with a spare room, they're saying you should just be living in a 1-bedroom property, and it's lucky that it suits you. The problem is when you've got people, for instance, who are looking after kids alternate weekends or something like that, and so they do have a use for the spare room. But in your situation, I'm glad that it's working out for you.
Yeah, I just want to find out. To me, it seems cheaper for me. It sounds ridiculous. It seems cheaper for me to move to Hull I'm on unemployment support allowance up there, and I'm still getting the same amount of money. This sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Wait. You'll get the same amount of money in your pocket. What's going to go on is that the amount that you get for rent will go down because the rent will be lower in Hull.
Thank you very much. It's 9:30. More calls, 0500 909 693. Any questions? You're staying for a bit, are you? Delighted you're there. We have our expert Phil Agulnik with us. Phil, the Director of Online Benefits Calculator, entitledto.com, knows much that there is to know and can help answer your questions. 0500 909 693. And we also asked the overarching question this morning, away from our information and being able to offer help, we also asked the question whether this is the change that was needed, this universal benefit, or is it a recipe for disaster? Do call us. Here's the weather.
Thank you, Nikki. Good morning. A lovely start to the day across England and Wales today. Lots of sunshine here, although it was rather chilly first thing this morning. But further north and west, across northwest England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, there is a bit more cloud in the sky. And here we've got some frequent showers working in on a rather gusty wind during the course of today. Now in Scotland, those showers in northern and western areas will turn heavy. Some hail, a bit of thunder mixed in as well. Staying largely dry though and sunny towards eastern and southern Scotland, and temperatures getting to about 10 to 13 degrees. It will feel quite cold actually where you've got a passing shower and there's gusty winds. Now for Northern Ireland, again a few showers around here today, but there'll be some sunny spells in between and temperatures of 11 degrees. Across England and Wales, we keep the relatively cloudy skies in the northwest of England, but still some brighter spells in between what will be some pretty heavy showers working in through the course of today. Some of those showers working their way a little bit further south and eastward, but for much of England and Wales it's going to be a dry day today. Decent amounts of sunshine, just some fair weather cloud developing, and temperatures getting to 12 or 13 degrees in northern parts of England and about 13 to 15 degrees in the south. Now, through this evening and tonight, any showers you do get will tend to fade away, except perhaps the Northern Isles and the far northeast of Scotland. With clear skies for many of us, though, temperatures are going to fall away 1 to 4 degrees by the early morning on Tuesday, and that's going to give us a touch of frost as well. So a cold start to Tuesday, but it should be a cracking day again. Lots of sunshine around. Some more showers to come for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but there'll be fewer and further between. There'll be lighter showers as well. Lighter winds for most of us across the UK tomorrow. So temperatures 11, 12, 13 degrees in northern parts of England, and for Scotland and Northern Ireland, 13 to 16 degrees in the south. It should feel a little bit warmer with those lighter winds and that sunshine. Through Tuesday and into, Tuesday night and into Wednesday, it will turn a little bit windy and a bit wet for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Otherwise, though, it's going to be a dry and a sunny day for the bulk of the United Kingdom. And again, temperatures not doing too badly for the time of year. We're approaching what should be the normal for the end of April and the beginning of May.
9:33. On digital radio, digital TV, mobile and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the BBC News on 5 Live, I'm Rachel Hodges. Good morning. A small number of benefit claimants in Greater Manchester will start to receive the new universal credit from today. Ministers say it marks the beginning of a fundamental cultural shift in the welfare system, but critics have raised concerns about how it will work. A court in Dubai has jailed 3 British men for 4 years for drugs offences. Grant Cameron, Carl Williams and Sunny Jair, who are all from London, claim to have been tortured by police after they were arrested. Syrian state TV says the Syrian Prime Minister has survived a bomb attack on his car in the capital Damascus. It says Wael al-Halki wasn't hurt in the blast. Unconfirmed reports say his bodyguard was killed. The Chief Inspector of Constabulary for England and Wales says the police need to redouble their efforts on crime prevention. Tom Windsor says he believes it's more important than catching criminals. And the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, has visited the wreckage of the garment factory which collapsed on Wednesday, trapping and killing hundreds of people. Rescue work is continuing for a 6th day, but officials say they no longer expect to find any survivors. That's the 5 Live News. The sport now. Here's George.
Thank you. Tottenham's Gareth Bale has been voted the PFA Player of the Year and the Young Player of the Year. The Welshman becomes just the 3rd player to win both awards in the same season after Andy Gray and Cristiano Ronaldo. Kim Little of Arsenal won the inaugural Women's Player of the Year. The QPR boss Harry Redknapp will meet with the club's owner Tony Fernandes this morning to discuss their squad for the Championship next season. QPR and Reading are relegated from the Premier League after their goalless draw. The Reading boss Nigel Adkins believes his players have the experience to bounce straight back up.
We talked about it in the dressing room afterwards, bottling the feeling, because it's not nice. But what we've got to do now is embrace the challenge that we're faced with, look forward with a positivity. We all want to be in the Barclays Premier League, I certainly do. It's a great place to be. And the experiences for this year, the lessons we've learnt from this season, we need to use wisely so that we can get back here.
The former QPR striker Kevin Gallen, meanwhile, believes Harry Redknapp will stay with the club and get them back in the Premier League.
Why wouldn't he? I think he's got a contract. I think he's on a good wage, and I think he'd be up for the challenge of bringing QPR back. He will feel that he didn't get a fair crack of the whip, as in he didn't bring the players in that he wanted to for the whole season that he had to work with. So I feel that he wouldn't think that that's his team.
The defending champion Ronnie O'Sullivan resumes his second-round match at the Crucible today at Snooker's World Championship. 9 frames to 7 up on Ali Carter. They will play to a finish today, and Philip Studd looks ahead.
Well, O'Sullivan didn't play poorly in the second session by any means. He made 4 breaks of over 70, including his second century of the match. But he did show a few signs of feeling the pressure of trying to live up to his much-hyped comeback. Carter punished 3 glaring potting errors with frame-winning breaks as he levelled at 7-all from 5-1 down. And at that stage, the underdog looked capable of taking control, only for the defending champion to recover his poise to take a 2-frame lead. A useful advantage for O'Sullivan, but Carter has shown enough to suggest he can further test the Rockets' resolve and provide the crowd with a thrilling climax tonight.
Yeah, there's no play this morning, so you'll have to wait till this afternoon for the snooker on BBC TV and online. Updates from Phil here on 5 Live as well. Sale's second row Richie Gray is leaving the club to join the French side Castres after only 1 season, but Sale have announced the signing of 3 new players, including forwards Michael Patterson and Kirill Koulimin. Prominent flat race jockey Eddie Ahern and former West Brom defender Neil Clement are among 6 people facing corruption charges at the British Horse Racing Authority today. And a second Newmarket trainer faces a BHA inquiry too over giving anabolic steroids to racehorses. Gerard Butler says several of his horses received treatment for injured joints, but he had been assured by vets that use of the substance didn't breach rules. This news coming 4 days after the Godolphin trainer Mahmoud Al-Zaruni was handed an 8-year ban for using anabolic steroids on his horses.
On digital and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Now, 5 Live Breakfast. Your call with Nikki Campbell. Call 0500 909 693. Calls are free from most landlines, but some networks and mobile operators will charge. Text 85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rate.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Phil is still here, Phil Agulnik, our expert. Let's also speak to Christian Guy, Managing Director of the Centre for Social Justice, an independent think tank established to put social justice at the heart of British politics. It says here. Good morning. Hello. How are you doing?
Good morning, Nikki. How are you?
You helped design the Universal Credit. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, the CSJ put Universal Credit together before it entered government.
Right, and Tim Nichols is from the Child Poverty Action Group, a charity that works to alleviate poverty and social exclusion. Hello to you.
Good morning.
So, Christian Guy, sell the idea to Tim.
Well, the point of universal credit is that we recognise that the current system is broken in that we put tax rates, if you like, on the poorest people in society of up to 95%. So they earn £1 and we take away almost 95 pence of it in benefits at some levels. And so we think that was wrong, and we wanted people who wanted to work to actually be able to take work and for it to be better for them financially. So we designed universal credit to mean that they keep a lot more of their money for a lot longer when they go into work. So this is about giving people that chance to keep more of their money, and it's a much better system. And it says to people, if you choose to work and can find work, you'll be much better off, because at the moment they know in some cases they're better off on benefits.
Do you agree in principle, Tim Nichols?
Absolutely, we agree in principle on that. I should stress that at the moment people generally are better off in work and wouldn't want wrong advice to go out there on that. What concerns us is that the level at which the Centre for Social Justice had proposed that benefits would be withdrawn at was actually much lower than what is now being put in place. So the incentives that the Centre for Social Justice wanted were rightly much stronger incentives than we're actually going to have in the system that is now going forward. And there are some types of claimants for which this is a particular problem.
Go on.
For example, second earners. If you're in a couple, you get an earnings disregard that all gets used up by the first earner in the couple, meaning that for the second earner, the gains are much, much smaller. And it's actually one of the best ways of bringing families out of poverty to have a second earner. So we think that after this piloting, we'd like to see them commit to introducing a second earner disregard.
Well, I think a lot of that makes good sense. It's not as strong as a system as we would want, but the point is it's...
Why was it watered down then?
Well, I think they've had to take, because the new money's going into this, so they found about an extra £2 billion to put into it. So I think it would have been more money if they'd had it, and we should celebrate the fact they've decided to do it in the current climate. So the point is it's streets ahead of where we are now. The current system is indefensible. It lets the people, the poorest ends of society down. So is it perfect? Of course it's not, and there'll be things I'd change tomorrow if I could, and if I was in government, I'm not. But the point is it's much better than we've got now, and I think everyone should get behind this. There are concerns about things like second earners, and those are fair concerns, but once you've got the system in place, you can do all sorts of creative things with it. They've just got to get it in place now.
Let's go to Paul in the East Midlands, not his real name. Hello, Paul.
Hi.
Morning, on you go.
Good morning. I guess my point is around direct benefits. I mean, I'm a childcare setting owner.
Yeah.
In the East Midlands, I've got a number of childcare settings. And have, I guess, sort of campaigned with a very small C for a long time to try to get childcare payments direct from the government to the settings. We provide the service, and on many occasions, that money does not find its way, a bit like your landlord was saying earlier on, it does not find its way to the business providing the service. I reckon approximately, this is anecdotally, that out of about 100,000 turnover a month, about £20,000 of that is benefits that should be coming to the settings. I reckon each month I have to fight for about half of that. Parents have received it. They tell me they've received it, but they've got other more pressing costs. So they pay their childcare costs, that's a specific benefit or childcare that they've received, and they pay for replacement tyres. I've had one lady telling me that she needed some plastic surgery, so she had to pay for that this particular month. And this is thousands and thousands of pounds. I'm talking about 2 or 3 settings here. You can multiply that by thousands each month. I am, I fully understand the benefit system. I support it. There's an absolute need for it, but it should be in the hour of need, and the hour of need might be very long term. But I think it's absolutely critical that those benefits that are received are paid to the people that provide the services.
I wonder what Phil thinks about this. Go on.
Well, I'm afraid, Paul, I don't think it's very likely to happen. I mean,
No, I know it's not, because I've spoken to my MP on a number of times and who's told me that individuals have human rights. Well, I'm an individual and I have human rights as well, and I don't expect every single month to be hassling parents pay what has been paid to them. And the voucher systems are already in place. I do not understand why it is not as simple as giving a parent a voucher, and the voucher comes along to the setting and it's paid.
All right, Phil.
It's so simple.
Paul, it's because parents have to top it up. So the support in tax credit is to meet 70% of your childcare.
That's correct. Yeah.
So they have to top it up, and above that, they can also, in effect, get less than 70%. It depends on their earnings, but there's a means test against that.
I fully understand. But, this particular lady who had plastic surgery brought her bank statements in to show me that she had received, it was over £1,000. She had 2 children with me, £1,000 a month, and then blatantly said, but I can't pay you. So this came in for children. The childcare I had provided, and it did not arrive with me. I mean, she was sent to bad debt. I'm talking 2 years ago, this particular lady. She was sent to bad debt, and we now get £1 a week. She owes us about £1,400.
I wonder what Tim Nichols thinks about all this. Tim?
Well, I mean, that sounds like a one-off case.
It's not.
Really,
it's not a one-off case.
The idea of selling it on plastic.
He's not happy with that one-off case allegation at all. He's not having it.
Thing. Obviously, nobody endorses that.
Hang on a minute. Wait.
How dare you? You come and sit with me every month talking to these parents. I'm a decent person. I don't go around knocking on doors. I try to help them. I talk to them. I put payment plans in place. But what annoys me is the payment plan I'm putting in place saying, can you pay me £30 a week instead of £60 a week that you owe me? The money's already been paid to them. I'm actually debt collecting for the government.
Look,
that money should come.
All right, let Tim come back now.
I don't endorse a case where somebody is spending it on unnecessary plastic surgery instead of spending money on their childcare. But look, let's not get bogged down in one anecdotal case here. There is a problem.
Don't patronise me, please.
Please just hold on a minute to let me answer.
Well, it's not an answer when you patronise.
I'm not sure I've even had a chance to patronise you yet. Maybe if I can answer, you can then decide if I have.
Let him. I'm going to fade you out while we just hear the answer from Tim.
There is too little that is going to support childcare in this country. We spend a lot less altogether as a country on childcare than other countries do. Now, there are different ways of doing that. You can have direct investment from government directly into childcare providers to make it either cheaper or free at the point of demand. That might be a system that would work very well for childcare providers and create less debt. So I do accept that there are issues with not enough money going one way or another into childcare. Parents do then struggle paying for that childcare, and situations of debt can arise.
Let's have Robin in Staffordshire.
Hi, morning, Nicky.
Morning.
My point is really about the change from the weekly to the monthly payment method, and primarily just around the fact that there's actually quite a big precedent for it, because a lot of big companies looking at ways of saving money have transferred employees from a weekly payroll to a monthly payroll, and obviously they're going to have the same concerns that many people who are on benefits and receiving money weekly are going to have. But the point really is that it can be done and it can be managed well. And it's, I think one of the other contributors slightly earlier said that it's a bit insulting actually to kind of generalise about people on benefits and say they're not going to be able to manage their money just because they're on benefits. They're perfectly capable human beings, and you know, they might need a little bit of help, but they can learn to manage with a monthly payment instead of a weekly one.
And Nicky, the problem has been over the years that we pay benefits every week, every 2 weeks, and people then get into work and they crash out quite quickly because they're not equipped and ready to manage monthly budgets. And so the point of these reforms...
It's a preparation, is it?
It's a preparation for work, and it's about making the system more realistic, because we've got to help people take more responsibility and take control of their lives, whether it's childcare payments or housing benefit or managing monthly salaries. And it is patronising to say that the poor people can't do that. Some of them need help to get to that place, and that's the point. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't do that, and it shouldn't expect it of people, because it's how the real world works.
Tim, it's how the real world works?
Well, I think people want choice here, and perhaps more choice than they're going to get in this system. People do say that they have problems budgeting over longer periods, and that they would prefer to keep shorter payment periods. And when we saw the change a few years ago from weekly payment of benefits to fortnightly payment of benefits, then some claimants did struggle. So I think it's good to have that choice there for those who want to increase their budgeting skills, but it's not necessarily something that people should be forced into.
But the question, I think, the question is though, are they going to get that choice when they do get a job? You know, it's very rare that jobs nowadays, and there are jobs that are paid weekly still, and I know some companies that do that, but it is certainly rarer, and it seems to be going out. So
well, not at the lower end of pay. It's actually much more common for those at the lower end of pay to be getting paid either weekly or monthly. And one problem that we will see is that if you're going into a job where you're being paid weekly or fortnightly, and yet your universal credit is being paid monthly, then it will keep going in and out of sync in quite confusing ways for claimants.
Okay, thank you. More to come. 0500 909 693. A flash for you, though. News just in. Police in the Czech Republic say a powerful explosion has damaged a building in the centre of the capital, Prague, and they believe some people are buried in the rubble. A spokesman says it wasn't immediately clear what caused the blast. The street is covered with rubble. It's been sealed off by police. We'll have more on that for you when we get it, as soon as we get it. 9:49. Here's Michelle.
Well, starting with an update in Essex with the M11 southbound between Junction 5 at Loughton and Junction 4 at Woodford. There was an accident on that stretch which caused long delays this morning. All lanes reopened at 9:20. Now congestion still goes back to Junction 6 for the M25, but those delays have eased to around about half an hour. Elsewhere, the northbound M6 just about back to normal now at Junction 4A for the M42. The M4 Britain Ferry Bridge westbound, so that's between Junctions 41 and 42. Still very slow traffic there because of an earlier accident. Congestion goes back to Junction 40. The M40 southbound between Junction 2 at Beaconsfield and Junction 1A for the M25. An accident and an oil spillage is blocking one lane and causing queues. The westbound M26 between Junction 2A for the A20 and the M25. One lane closed because of an accident, making things extra busy there. In Chadderton, the A663 Broadway southbound is closed just before Long Lane. That's causing queues. In Kings Lynn, the A47 still partially blocked in both directions after Kings Lynn because of an earlier breakdown, so do expect delays there. And in Hemel Hempstead, the A414 eastbound has now reopened after the M1 Junction 7, but things are still very busy. Michelle Dignan, 5 Live Travel.
Join us for 5 Live's Big Day Out in Liverpool on June the 1st. See Fighting Talk live and the 606 End of Season Awards.
With myself, Robbie Savage, Colin Murray, Mark Chapman,
and loads of special guests.
There'll also be live music from the one and only Primal Scream.
5 Live's Big Day Out.
For tickets, go to bbc.co.uk/5live.
Where you'll also find our entertaining terms and conditions.
This is 5 Live Breakfast. Your call.
We've got Christian Guy, who is from the Managing Director of the Centre for Social Justice. They helped design the Universal Credit. We also have Tim Nichols from the Child Poverty Action Group. And our expert, Phil Agulnik, is going to be answering a couple more questions. Just first, let's hear from Rob in Worthing. Hello, Rob. What's your point? Make it a quick one, if you could.
Morning, Nicky. I've rented to housing benefit tenants for about 6 or 7 years, but decided that I'm not going to take any more on. And it's not really down to the tenants a lot of the time. It's the local council, and the paperwork it generates is absolutely unbelievable. And my accountant really, really struggles with just keeping on top of it all. So, and they're reducing payments, and the tenant doesn't know what's happening. So in an ideal world, yes, you want it paid to the tenant because they'll just pay you the month's rent when it's due, let's say the first of the month. But if you're getting it direct from the council, it comes every 4 weeks, not monthly. It's lunar monthly, they call it. So every 4 weeks, which is confusing in itself. But the paperwork is it just creates a mountain of paperwork, and they chop and change it all the time. So that's the reason I'm just never going to use them again.
And Sarah in Lancashire, let's add your point, which is, Sarah, good morning.
Yeah, yes, Nicky. I've worked in housing for 20-some years, and I know, a lot of people, they sort of they don't, in the current system, they don't pay, if you're on income support, you don't pay, you don't get the rent in your hand. All they have to pay is water rates, which might be sort of £5, £6, £7 a week. And you wouldn't believe even that a lot of the tenants won't pay. And if you try to take, they can build up thousands of pounds in rent arrears, and if you try to take them to court, especially if they've got children, there's nothing you can do. So, they know the system, they buy things, and that is with us. They might go to other places and get credit and don't pay for that as well. So, when the gentleman said about these childcare costs, I can well believe that, because, the majority of people are decent people, and, there will be times when they just can't pay, but there's a lot of people out there who just will not pay. If they've got something better to spend the money on, like a new mobile phone or going out for a night out somewhere, and when people keep going on about, the children, how they can't afford to, you go into all these clothes shops in town centres now, Asda, all these places, they practically give clothes away and food and things like that. One of my comments is, I do have family who live on council estates, and you always seem to see the takeaway vans outside with, pizza delivery men. That must, for a family of 6 or whatever, that must cost a fortune.
Tim Nichols, do you want to come in here?
My comment.
We hear these comments a lot. Tim Nichols, do you want to respond to them?
We do hear these comments a fair bit, but we also hear a lot of comments from, well, like your caller said, the majority of people are decent people, and we should, I think, spend a bit less time talking about a minority that are maybe more visible and might understandably make us feel more angry and upset, and spend a bit more time focusing on the genuine hardship that people who are doing the right thing are having, particularly when we're seeing all these extra pressures with prices for basics going up much higher than the basic rate of inflation. I mean, you think about this winter, how difficult it's been for families on prepayment meters trying to keep the home warm.
Let's go to Sue in Berkshire. We'll get a question for Phil. Hello, Sue.
Hi, Nicky.
What are your concerns?
Right, my concern is universal credit. It might sound good in theory, but we'll wait and see how it works out in practice. If you go online, whether you get help or not going online, filling in the form, to me that's a cost-cutting exercise financially and staff. If you have a problem in the future where it's all been sorted, you've been awarded the benefit, etc., you've had the changeover, but there's a problem, will there be a call centre for you to ring, or will you have to get help going online again to sort out your problem?
Do you want to get an answer to that? Here's Phil.
And the answer is we're yet to find out, Sue. No doubt the main route is going to be doing it online, but there will be a backup call centre. How it's going to actually work in operation, we don't know yet. They haven't announced it.
Right, all I can say is at the moment, when you ring the DWP, if you've got a problem with an existing benefit that you're on at present, there's always these options. You type in a code, you type in a PIN number, you type in this, and then it says in a little word after, oh, that's when you want to use it. You can use that PIN number online. So that's where they want to go for everything.
That's absolutely right. The system is trying to force you down the route of doing things online. So it'll be one of these systems where eventually, if you try hard enough, you might actually get to speak to someone, but the system will be set up to get you to do things online. And yes, you're right, that is a mechanism for saving money.
But it's also about the real world. I mean, we mustn't assume that poor people are not in the real world. There are job centres all over the country which will always be a port of call for people who need advice and help with benefits. And other organisations that are brilliant, like the Citizens Advice Bureau, work all the time to give people that advice. But it is 2013. Internet runs the world. We have to help people who would benefit from the internet to come on board and make use of it. And it does save money, but it's also about equipping people for the real world.
Yeah, but then if you're visually impaired, you can't. Screen readers.
Well, of course, then if you're visually impaired, you're not going to be expected to use the internet. There is all sorts of provision.
But you can't use it all. But then on the other hand, are you going to get someone if you ring up a number and say, "Can you help me fill it in over the phone?" They might say no.
You'll get face-to-face support if you need it, but the point is the majority will be able to use the internet, and the majority will find this system much better, much simpler, much more efficient.
Yes, but if you can't get to your job centre...
Yes, if you can't get to the job centre, they're going to send people to you. There's all sorts of things they will do. Local authorities have millions of pounds to design the support for the people they know about. So it's not just about what the DWP will do. Councils have got money, and it's for councils to now say, well, we know that Mrs. Jones needs certain support, we'll get her that support.
Let's hear Emma in London. Hello.
Oh, hello there. I'm really worried about this because I'm on the ESA support group, not the work-related group, and I'm going to have real difficulty in knowing that after I've just got my benefit through to say I could have the support group and not the work-related group. So I got awarded that. The worry that cost me was very, very high. Now I'm very worried about going through the whole rigmarole again on a computer, because if you tick the wrong thing, but then also if you can't use a computer, how are you going to get the help? And then what about this new thing called PIP coming in that's going to replace DNA? And then you've got your housing benefit on top of that. And it's all going to get all too much, because all these benefits, I think it should be the same system where it goes directly to your landlord. Tenants shouldn't get it. It's going to cause a number of problems. All this has not been properly thought out at all. I don't feel.
Can I just chip in there? These benefits are fine. They're going online, but government departments don't do logic, in my view. Why go from one benefit to another, to another, to another? Why not shove us all on universal credit rather than miss out the ESA?
Quick response, Phil. You've got about 15 seconds.
They are trying to put everyone on ESA into universal credit, but existing claimants, it's not going to affect you until 2015 at the earliest.
We'll be doing it before then, though. We'll be talking about it before then. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you to Tim and to Christian and to all our excellent callers this morning. Have a really good Monday. See you tomorrow. Rachel here at 6. I'm along at 7. Another Your Call for you at 9 o'clock.
First for breaking news and the best live sport.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.